Hey, good day. Coach G here. Keep it real. Hashtag don't play. Welcome to another episode of Matters of the Heart. First, I am like to say, yes, I am solo today. But please, please, please keep Miss Nolia in your prayers. She lost her daughter, and it's a very difficult time for her right now. So, y'all, please keep her lifted up in your prayers for her and her family. We miss you, Miss Nolia. We're praying for you and can't wait for you to get back and join us back here on Keep It Real, hashtag don't play. But welcome, everybody. I am grateful to be here and to that God has allowed me the opportunity to be able to come and even speak with you today. But I do miss my partner, Miss Nolia. I love her so much. But again, please keep her in your prayers. She will be back soon. So we're just going to continue with our conversations about matters of the heart. I know that everyone just celebrated Valentine's Day this week, and you know, they consider that being a love thing, but we want to talk about some real deal stuff here when it comes to the heart. Matters of the heart. And Miss Noya usually reads the scripture, and she, kind of, talks about it a little bit, and I just kind of come in and just put my little 2 cents in. But today I'm going to be reading the scripture and put my 2 cents in. So last time we talked about, we came out of Proverbs 4:23, and the Bible says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." And it truly does. It truly does. We have to guard our hearts from hurt, resentment, bitterness, anger, not being accepted, not feeling love, not being appreciated. We have to guard our heart from those things because those things can creep in and turn into a stone in our heart and make our heart sick. And I've never had gallstones, I've never had kidney stones, but from my understanding is you don't feel very well when you have kidney stones or gallstones. Again, I don't know, I've never had them. But being in the health and wellness industry, my understanding is that it can be painful. That means that they're sick, there's something wrong. So they usually have to go to the doctor and either get some form of medication to either dissolve them or go into surgery to have them removed. But nonetheless, it's something that is not supposed to be there. It don't belong there. It don't belong. A stone don't belong in your kidneys. A stone don't belong in your gallbladder. And a stone definitely doesn't belong in your heart. That means you have a sick heart. How do you know? How do you know if you have a sick heart? How do you know that? Good question. I'm glad you asked. So here's how you know. For whatever is in your heart is determined by what you say. Here's what Matthew 12:34 says. A good person produces good things from the treasure of their heart. Let me say it one more time. A good person produces good things from the treasure of their heart. The action of a person is a reflection of their heart. What are you saying? Now, when I say that, I mean, what are you saying? Not what am I saying? I'm saying that it's a question. What are you saying? And the reason why I'm asking that question is, what are you saying? Because it's an indication of what's in your heart. If you are constantly spewing anger, you got a heart condition, boo. If you're constantly spewing hurt, you got a heart problem. If you're constantly talking about resentment, you got a heart problem. That's a heart thing. And let me say this. What you're doing is, I'm gonna go back to the kidney stones. What you're doing is you're creating stones in your heart. That's what you're doing. And guess what? Those stones is going to affect you. Because guess what? If I had kidney stones, it's affecting me and my body. It ain't affecting you. It's affecting me. That's why we have to guard our heart. Because what we do is we build stones, a wall with the stones of hurt. We build a wall with the stone of resentment. We build a wall with hurt. We build a wall of things that we bring from our childhood, like not getting enough attention, being overlooked, being hurt. Those things are stones, just like the kidney stones develop in our kidneys. It's the same thing. But guess what? The kidney stones have to be removed because they don't belong there. Kidney stones don't belong in stones don't belong in your kidneys, nor does stone belong in your heart. And here's the thing: God wouldn't tell us to guard our hearts with all diligence if He didn't know that the issue of our life is going to come from there. He cares about what we fill our heart with. God cares because let me tell you why He cares. Because whatever we fill our heart with, it affects our thinking, it affects our emotions, it affects our behavior, it affects our decision making. Because when we make bad decisions from being in a bad place, having the stones in our heart, most of the time it's not good results. So that's why God cares about what we put in our hearts. That's why He tells us to guard our hearts. Guard your heart from resentment. Guard your heart from anger. God said it's okay to get angry, just don't sin in your anger. And when you hold on to that anger, there you go. Now you done stepped over into a whole nother dimension. So that's the reason why God says guard your heart. And that's why He cares about what we fill our heart with. He don't want us filling our heart with resentment and anger and bitterness and hurt. See, here's the thing. When I said, what are you saying? I wasn't saying that referring to you asking me a question, what am I saying? I'm asking you, what are you saying? Because whatever it is that comes out of our mouth is a reflection of what's in our heart. If your conversation is anger, that's what's in your heart. If your conversation is bitterness, that's what's in your heart. If your conversation is hurt, that's what's in your heart. Whatever we speak out of our mouths is a direct link to our hearts. That's the reason why we have to understand the condition of our heart determines the quality of our lives. Now, I want to say that again because I want you to understand this. The condition of our hearts determine the quality of our lives. And if you don't believe me, let me give you an example. If you are depressed, what type of life are you living? If you're depressed, what kind of life are you living? If you're happy, what kind of life are you living? Because when you're depressed, everybody can see it. It's all on you because of the way you talk, the things that you do, the decisions that you make, your emotional state. That's a hard thing. That's why we got to get that right. Because all the issues of our lives come from our heart. That's why we got to be careful with what we're constantly speaking as far as our conversations. We have to pay attention to the words that are coming out of our mouths because we can't keep speaking anger and think that our heart is not being affected by that. That's a stone. And let me tell you what happens when we continue to not only speak anger, We start to believe it, okay, because we're thinking it, or emotions start to get involved. Our behavior reflects it, our decision making reflects it. That's why we have to guard our heart. Now, hey, we've all been hurt. Every person on the planet has been hurt. And I don't care how young you are or how old you are, because I can go all the way back to my childhood and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it because I got to keep it real. And I'm going to give you an example of what I'm saying about having a sick heart. So when I ask the question, is your heart sick? I really meant it, because we have to examine hearts, because God examines our heart. He tells us he examines our heart. So therefore, we have to be mindful of the things that we are allowing to penetrate our heart. We can't allow anger and bitterness and resentment and unforgiveness to penetrate our hearts, because you know what we're doing? We're building a wall with stones. And God can't speak to us with that wall up, because that's how we hear God, through our heart. And if you don't believe me, let me tell you how I know this. Because the word ear is smack dab in the middle of the word heart. Heart. You see that? Here. Heart. That's how we hear God, is with our heart. So if our heart is stones, weeds, grown up in our heart, how? How can he get to us what he needs when we got the wall up? How can he even speak to us and we hear him and live the life that he wants us to live, that he has designed for us? How can we? And I know that we've all been hurt. We all have had some form of bitterness or anger, resentment in our lives. We all have. But those are stones. And just like you can't live with kidney stones, you can't live with stones in your heart either. Because what happens is those stones start to affect the things that we say, the conversations that we have, not only with others, but even with ourselves. And the most important conversation we ever will have is with ourselves. And if we're having a conversation out of resentment to ourselves, we're having a conversation about anger with ourselves, if we're having a conversation about hurt and bitterness with ourselves, we're constantly building that wall of stones. And God can't speak to our heart. We can't hear God with our heart because of the stone wall. Now, I know we've all been hurt. We all have had some form of bitterness or anger or whatever the case may be. That's why God says guard your heart. Because we can't allow anger to reside. We can't allow unforgiveness to reside there. We can't keep collecting stones around our heart like a necklace or a bracelet and wear it with a badge of honor. We can't do that. Because we have to realize that those things, those stones, not only affect our lives, it affects the lives of the people that's connected to us, and it also affects our relationship with God. More importantly, it affects our relationship with God. Because again, we can't hear God because our heart has stones all around it. We built a fortress. I mean, that fortress is so strong that we even got a guard tower. And we got somebody like a sniper up there looking to keep everything out, that wall. Yeah, sometimes people do us wrong. Yep, sure does. But you know what? What we have to do is we have to recognize that. Because the words that come out of our mouths is a reflection of what's in our heart. So when you hear people always talking hatred and anger and bitterness, they got a heart problem. Straight up, it's just a heart problem. And until that's fixed, you're going to continue to hear the hate. You're going to continue to hear the anger. You're going to continue to hear the bitterness. It ain't going nowhere until they fix that. That's why God says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows all the issues of life. All the issues of life flows from our heart. So we have to guard our hearts and not allow the anger and the bitterness to penetrate our hearts. Yeah, you're going to get mad. Somebody may have done something to you that you're going to have resentment, of course. But you can allow it to become a stone. That's why you have to guard it. Not building a wall by guarding it. I'm saying you have to guard your heart and not allow it to come in. Because again, God is concerned about what we allow in our hearts. And he's concerned about that because it affects our relationship with him. The condition of our heart is a reflection of everything that we do. We cannot hear from God if our hearts are stubborn. If we have a fortress built around our hearts. That's why we got to be very, very mindful. See, here's the thing. It all starts with the whole thought process. It starts right here. Then you start to get the emotional side of it. But see, what we have to understand is when we start to have the thought, then we get the emotions. When we get the emotions, and that's when we start the talk, and we start talking about somebody did us wrong. We start talking about the hurt, or we start talking about the anger, or we start talking about the bitterness, and we constantly go on and on and on and on and on and on. It's like, okay, enough already. And honestly, for me, I just cannot be around it. I can't. I have to remove myself from those people who heart is of stone, because of they haven't guarded their heart, and they allow the bitterness and the anger and the hatred to come into their heart. So now they got this whole big old stone wall. But me personally, I can't be around it because it affects me. It affects my heart. So I'm trying to keep my heart in a good place. I don't want the stones, because guess what? I've never had kidney stones, but I heard it's painful. And I do not want to live with no pain from a condition of my heart. I don't, because it's not conducive for me to be able to have the life that I want with all that going on in my heart. I just can't do it. So what I have to do is be mindful of what I allow to penetrate my heart. If I get upset about something, or I get angry about something, I have to identify it right then and there. Because here's the thing. When we have the thought, then we have the emotion, we have to understand that it starts to affect our behavior. It starts to affect our relationship with God. God can't speak. We can't hear him. Don't forget, the word ear is smack dab in the middle of the word heart. Heart. We can't hear God if we have stones in our heart. We have to get rid of the anger and the bitterness. We got to let it go. We got to work through that. And then we got to guard our hearts. We cannot live. Those stones are just like kidney stones. We cannot, because the condition of our hearts determines the quality of our lives. If your heart is sick, you stressed, you ain't happy, you constantly talking negativity, it's affecting the people around you, it's affecting the people that love you, it's affecting your relationship with God. And that's why we have to make sure that we guard our hearts, and we cannot allow these things to get into our hearts like kidney stones. Because then we're going to have some pain. And we don't know who wants to live with pain. Nobody wants to live with pain. So guard your heart, because out of it flows all the issues in life. from our lives, all the issues, every single issue that we have comes from our heart. Every single one of them. Whether it's happy, sad, depressed, stressed, it don't matter. It don't matter. All those things is a heart condition. All those things are heart conditions. And we have to be aware of those things. So I want to share something that I hope will help somebody. When God showed me that my heart was sick. Thinking I'm happy, thinking that, that I'm moving on with my life, and I don't think it's good. Life is good. That's what I'm thinking. But let me tell you, when God showed me that my heart was sick, most of y'all know that I moved back from Texas to North Carolina to take care of my mom. My mom did not raise me. My grandparents raised me. And from the time that I lived with my grandparents, my only desire as a child was I wanted to be with my mommy. I just wanted to be with my mommy. That's all I wanted. Because every child wants to be with their mom. And yeah, my grandmother was there, my grandfather was there, and I loved them and they loved me, but it wasn't the same. I wanted my mom. I wanted the affection. I wanted the attention. I wanted that from my mother. I didn't get that. I grew up with resentment. A lot of resentment against my mother. So when I moved back home to take care of her because she was alone, her health was failing. She needed to have somebody here. So my husband and I, we picked up and we moved to North Carolina. And, so I had a lot of stuff going on, and the resentment just came over me like a flood, boy. I'm telling you, it was like a mighty rush of wind. And I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize how much resentment I had because he wasn't there for me. And I didn't get the affection. I didn't realize that. I had no idea. I didn't know. But God showed me. He showed me your heart is sick. You got resentment. You've been hurt. You're angry. You've got bitterness, unforgiveness. And here's the thing. He says there is nothing that she could say, even today, that could change anything that happened. There's nothing she could say that would change any of that. All my life, pretty much, was without my mom. She can't change that. I can't change that. But God showed me you got too much resentment. That resentment is a problem. Yeah, you came back to take care of your mom. Yes, that's a good thing. Kudos to you. But your heart ain't right. I stopped me dead in my tracks. Just like I said, yeah, it did. God said, you got to get your heart right. You got too much resentment, too much anger, too much bitterness. Now, but hey, please don't misunderstand me. I am good. My mother is so spoiled. This woman don't do nothing. I wait on her hand and foot. I take care of her like she was my child, just as if she was a child. I take care of my mother. Take care of her real good. Okay. When I said my mama's spoiled, she's spoiled. But I'm doing it because I know it's the right thing to do. But the resentment came in because my mom has two children, me and my brother. My brother lives in Seattle. And when I got here, I felt like, well, why am I here? I was never the favorite child. My brother was always the favorite child. So I'm constantly saying that in my mind, to myself, to whoever would listen, the resentment. I can just get building up. The stones, next thing you know, I had a whole fortress built around my heart pertaining to my mother. Because it's something that she didn't do when I was a child. I carried that for 66 years, y'all. I'm being real with y'all. Y'all gotta understand, that affected my childhood, it affected my teenage years, it affected my young adult. I mean, the things that I did in my life because I felt like, I didn't get the time, I didn't get the attention, I didn't get the affection from my mom, and I felt like, well, it's not fair. It's not fair. But I still came to take care of her as if she was my child. And God says, your heart ain't right. You got to get rid of all that stuff. Yeah, you taking care of her, and yeah, you being loving and kind, but it's not pure. And I had to ask God, renew in me a right mind and renew my heart. Give me a clean spirit. Give me a clean heart, God. Because I was so hurt and so angry because my mom didn't take care of me. And then, her and my dad got divorced when I was young, and she had anger because of what happened between them, and she kind of like let that from her heart condition. She let that spill over on me. So now we got this tug of war going on. She got resentment. I got resentment, and this is what we doing. We just steady doing this. It was a hard. I mean, it was. Oh my God! It was terrible. It was. It was, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't recognize it until God showed me. You can't keep saying that you have resentment because you're here and your brother isn't. You can't keep having the anger because of you didn't get the attention, you didn't get the affection. You can't keep walking around here holding on to the bitterness because of what she didn't do. Because guess what? She can't go back and change that now. So God says, you know what? Let's perform some surgery here. We need to do some surgery. Yep. God put me under and did perform surgery because the stones had to come out. And then after he removed the stones, after he removed the fortress, because when I tell you I had built a fortress, honey, I mean, I had a fortress. I'm talking about like a compound to the point where I had towers with snipers, with AK-47. I'm talking about the whole 9 yards. I wasn't letting nothing in when it pertained to that relationship. But let me tell you something. Because of that resentment and that bitterness and that anger that I had toward my mother, to this day, it affected my daughter's relationship with my mom. Not that I said anything but just demonstrating and saying, talking about the anger, talking about the resentment, talking about the hurt. Guess what I did? After making deposits of stones into her heart. That's what I did. That's what I did. I did that. And now my daughter doesn't have the type of relationship that a grandmother should have with their granddaughter. My mother is a great great grandmother. She don't even talk to my grandchildren. You know why? Because she doesn't have a relationship with them. You know why? Because of the resentment that I had in my heart. I didn't have the love to share from my mother to share with my daughter and my grandchildren on behalf of my mom. Now she's missing out on her grand and great grand, all because of the resentment that I carried all these years. She's only seen my grandchildren one time, and one of my grandchildren she's never seen at all. My daughter asks about my mom, but she don't have that relationship. She doesn't have that granddaughter relationship with my mom because of the resentment that I carried around all these years. And I made deposits of stones in my daughter's heart. That's why God says, guard your heart, because now my daughter and my grandchildren are being affected by the stones that I had in my heart. I didn't see it. I didn't even know I had them. I had no idea. But the conversations that I was having with my daughter over the years about my relationship with my mom, oh, I'm going to tell you something. When I heard the term, the condition of your heart determines the quality of your life, when I tell you that could not be a more true statement, because now the quality of my daughter's life is she don't have a relationship with her grandmother. That's the quality of her life. That's not fair to her. So that's why we got to be careful with the stones in our heart, because what we do is we make deposits in other people's heart from the conversations that we have with them. That's why we can't talk anger and bitterness and hate. We can't do it, because what we're doing is we're making deposits in other people. And now to this day, my daughter still does not have a relationship with my mother. And that ain't even cool, y'all. Ain't nothing cool about that. Now she asked about my mom. How's your mom? She don't even say, how's grandma? How's your mom? You see what I'm saying? You see how my stony heart affected somebody else? And her stony heart is affecting her children. You see? That's why we got to be aware. That's why we got to guard our heart. Because if I had guarded my heart, my daughter wouldn't have them stones. Those stones is directly linked to the condition of my heart at that time. And that's what that is. So now my mother doesn't have a relationship with my daughter, and my daughter doesn't have a relationship with my mama. All because I didn't guard my heart. That's why we got to guard our hearts. Because now all these issues, you know, my grandson would say, how's your mom doing? We're talking 3 generations here. Well, actually, my mom, me, my daughter, 4 generations. 4. 4 generations, y'all. This stuff goes on and on and on and on. Come on, people, we gotta stop. We gotta check the conversations that we're having. We gotta check what's in our heart, because it was affected. And hey, not only did it affect my relationship with my daughter, it affected my relationship with God. It did. I just got to keep it real. It did. It affected my relationship with God. So that's why we got to get this right. That's why we got to get this right, y'all. We got to guard our hearts, because out of it flows all the issues of life. Now, my daughter has an issue of not having a relationship with her grandmother. That's an issue, y'all. I'm telling you, we got to do better. We got to recognize that the words that's coming out of our mouths. We got to recognize our emotions. We got to understand that thought process affect our emotions. Our emotions start to affect our decision making, and everything is tied to that. It's like a puzzle. It all comes together. And God cares about what we deposit in our heart, because we make the deposit. That's on us. We do that. Yes, somebody may hurt us, but guess what? We the one hold on to it. Yeah, we may have resentment because somebody did us wrong, but we're the ones that hold on to it. We may have not had the attention from somebody that we really care about, somebody we really love, but we're the ones holding on to it. And we're constantly, when we talk about that stuff and constantly talk about it, guess what happens? More and more stones are deposited. And the next thing you know, you got a fortress built around your heart. And if you don't hear nothing else I say, I want you to understand this. We cannot hear God, because we hear God with our heart, And the word ear is in smack dab in the middle of the word heart. Heart. We hear God with our heart. Heart. And if you got resentment and bitterness and anger and hatred in your heart, you will not hear God. God will need to perform some surgery and remove the stones. The stones gotta be removed. For years and years and years, y'all, I lived with resentment against my mother. She lived with resentment for things that happened in her life. And that just kind of spewed over into my life. She made deposits of resentment into my life. I made deposits of resentment of things from in my daughter's life. From you see, we talking 4 generations. 4, y'all. 4. We gotta do better. We gotta understand that we got to remove the stones. We can't allow those stones to keep building and building and building the walls around our heart. It's making our heart hard. My heart was so hard. There was a time when people would say to me, especially when I moved back to North Carolina, I said, "Oh, I'm moving back to North Carolina to take care of my mom." I'm like, take care of your mom. But your mom was deceased. I never heard you speak of your mom. Never heard you even speak of your mom. You know why? Resentment, anger, bitterness. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't even know my mom was even still living because I never talked about her. Now, I talked about the hurt that she caused me. I talked about the anger that I developed. I talked about the bitterness that I had, but I never talked about our relationship or lack thereof. Never talked about it. Please, y'all, we got to look at the conversations that we're having. We got to look at the words that's coming out of our mouths. Because what comes out of our mouth is a reflection of what's in our heart. Plain and simple. So when you hear people talking negative, it's a hard thing. That's how you know people are sick in their heart. Hey, I don't have to be a doctor to diagnose that, boo. I can listen to your conversation, and I'm very aware of it. I'm so aware, and I thank God that He made me aware of it. With the conversations that I have, I'm very careful with the conversations that I have, not just with other people, but with myself, because we talk to us. We talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else. We talk to ourselves more than we talk to God. And let's just be real about it. And I know we talk to God a lot, but we talk to ourselves a whole lot more. And we got to be mindful of the things that we're talking to ourselves about. And I did a whole bunch of talking about this resentment conversations with myself and justifying why I felt the way I felt. Well, my brother was always the favorite. Justifying it. That didn't help me. So what? So what? He was a favorite. Who? Well, I mean, who cares? I mean, that's how I feel now. It's like, oh, I mean, I don't care. But man, I'm telling you, we got to be careful. You got to be careful because those things will creep in, and next thing you know, you got a whole fortress. So don't build a fortress around your heart with those stones. The stones don't belong there. They don't belong in your kidneys, and they don't belong in your gallbladder. They don't belong in your heart. Because what's in your heart is an indication of what's really going on with you. Matthew 12:34 says, a good person, a good person produces good things from the treasures of their heart. Let me read that one more time. A good person produces good things from the treasures of their heart. Matthew 12:34. You don't believe me? Go look for yourself. I ain't making it up. I didn't write the book. I'm just telling you what to say. I'm just a messenger. It says a good person produces good things. So you know what I told God? I said, God, I want to produce good things. I'm tired of all this. These stones are heavy. They're heavy. They weigh me down. I can't even love the right way. I can't even have a conversation about love. I can't even, wasn't hearing God. You know why? Because I had a fortress around my heart. So what I'm saying is, examine your heart. See if you got some stones in there. See if your heart is sick. You really need to examine your heart, because guess what? God is going to examine your heart. So ask yourself the question, how do I know if my heart is sick? Seriously, ask yourself the question, how do I know if my heart is sick? And if you got resentment, anger, bitterness, hate, unforgiveness, boo, your heart is sick. And let me be the first one to tell you, I don't have to be a doctor to diagnose that. Because when I hear that coming out your mouth, again, uh, Matthew says, Matthew says, a good person produces good things from the treasure of your heart. So if you walk around with unforgiveness in your heart, ain't nothing good coming out of it, boo. Ain't nothing good coming out of it. Check your heart. Ain't nothing good coming out of that. If you got hate, ain't nothing good coming out of that. The Matthew says, I didn't write the book. A good person, please hear me out. A good person produces good things from the treasure of a good heart. You want a good heart. You don't want a sick heart. That's what I got for you today. That is matters of the heart. We need to examine very closely. Very closely. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to examine your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, and your decision making. Because if you're doing all those things with stones in your heart, you're going to have a whole bunch of issues. Because the word says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows all the issues of life. And the issue of hate, anger, bitterness, hurt, mm-mm, mm-mm, turns into stone. Now you got a stony heart. And that's affecting our relationship with God. He don't want us to have a stony heart. He wants our heart to be pliable. And he wants us to guard it. He wants us to love with the agape love, the unconditional love. When we do that, there ain't no room for resentment. There ain't no room for unforgiveness. There ain't no room for bitterness. There ain't no room for hate. So I'm going to challenge you today. Examine what you're saying to yourself, what you're saying to others, and examine your heart. Because it's a treasure. And you want it to be good. You want your heart to be good. That's what I got for you today. I hope it blessed you. I was blessed by it. I thank God that He checked me. I thank God that He performed surgery on my heart. I thank Him. Now I can hear Him more clearly with my heart. H-E-A-R-T, y'all. H-E-A-R-T. You want to hear God? Get your heart right. Hey, I'm Coach G. On behalf of Ms. Noya, we thank y'all for tuning in today. We love you. We look forward to you joining us again on next week. Challenge yourself to examine your heart. Coach G here. See you next week. Same time, same place. This is Keep It Real, #don't play. We'll see you next time. We love you. God bless.